holiday time for the landlocked greys of Sheffield, and the great escape to the sea has begun. For the first time in their lives, the children are to be taken on a train, the first leg of a journey, which will also see them take their first major ferry and first flight. It was the start of a love affair with the South Coast, which would see the family return every year for their summer break, sometimes spending a month there at a time. For mother and camera woman Jean Grey, they were all experiences she was determined to capture on film.
I've always loved the sea, and I've always thought a holiday must be somewhere where there was sea. Though Scilly, it's a long, long journey from here. It's worth it. We had luggage in advance in those days, and the railways would arrange to fetch it, and they put the trunk in a lorry, and next time we saw it was in the house where we were staying. It was very exciting for the children. We'd always gone on holiday in the car before, so it was the first time they'd been in a train, and they looked out of the windows and saw that we were actually moving, and they thought it was quite magical. And we had a sleeper, so they went to bed in the train, which was quite a novelty for them. From Penzance we got on a little single-decker bus out to the airport at Land's End, which was just a little shed with this small plane sitting there waiting for us to get aboard. The children had never been in a plane before, so again it was a bit more excitement for them.
For their first holiday, Jean, her mother and the two children went off on their own for the first 2 weeks and were later joined by her husband Scott, who brought the family car.
When Scott came down and brought the car, he'd packed the boot full of tinned food and all sorts of things to eat, and we used to have lovely picnics. We used to take the car down narrow lanes to the beach, you know, and light a fire and boil the kettle, make cups of tea and a fry-up, really good picnics. And if we had a tin of fruit, we would just pick up a shell from the beach and use it as a spoon.
For a family used to the industrial landscape of Sheffield and its suburbs, the sight of the sea was breathtaking, and they made sure they spent most of the time enjoying its many charms.
There were very interesting trips going out to the Bishop Rock Lighthouse. Sometimes they would go when they were changing the lighthouse men were going on duty, one going on and another one coming off. And they used to land them on a thing that I think was called a breecher's buoy. And several boats would go all at the same time and sort of hang around and wait and watch all everything going on.
On one of the trips, a teenaged cousin joined them in a boat he'd built in his own garden and launched for the first time on holiday. Jean used this in a little drama.
One of my nephews, when he was about 15, designed and built a little boat in the back garden of their house where they lived, and we christened it Little 'Un. And one year, when it was finished, they put it on the roof of their car and took it down and over on the boat to Scilly, and we had a little launching ceremony. I made up this little story that we would go, some of us would go to another island and pretend that we'd missed the boat, and that we had to somehow get in touch with Chris to come and rescue us in his little boat. And so we lit the fire and made a smoke screen that he could see.
For Jean, the opportunity to film the family and try to construct little stories about the breaks was something she enjoyed as much as the holiday itself.
Filming was part of the holiday to me, I think. I loved doing it, and I always had the camera available to film anything that I thought might be interesting. When it was time to come home, which we were never very happy about, I took some film on the boat. We came back by boat, and then from Penzance we came home in the car. In those days it seemed such a long journey that we used to spend a night somewhere on the way, and so I took bits of film of the places where we stopped on the way. It doesn't matter where you've been and how good a time you've had and how much you just don't want to go home. When you get there, it's always nice to be home, back in your own bed.